First large-scale nuclear power plant was made in Calder Hall, England in 1956. Nuclear power stations work in almost the same way as fossil fuel burning stations, except that a chain reaction called nuclear fission makes the heat instead. Nuclear fission is a chain reaction in which a reactor's uranium rods interact with neutrons, in which a neutron strikes the nucleus of a uranium atom. This then splits the nucleus into two fission fragments. It then releases a large quantity of thermal energy. Uranium is used because it is very unstable, making it very easily to be split in half to produce large quantities of energy.
Nuclear fission.
The thermal heat produced by nuclear fission is then pumped through the reactor to the reactor's vessel or fuel pool. It then heats the water and creates steam. The steam produced is then used to spin the turbines, which then generates energy. The energy produced by nuclear power is then used to supply the world with 17% of its electricity needs. Nuclear power can also serve as an engine for some military ships and submarines. The best part of all is that the energy produced by nuclear power produces very small amounts of waste, as well as no greenhouse gas emissions, which are the main contributor to global warming. Nuclear power doesn't just save our environment, it saves us money. Nuclear power costs about the same as coal, so it's not expensive to make. With the rapid increase in population over the next few years, there will be a huge rapid decrease in fossil fuels, so nuclear power could still be our best alternative, for it takes very little fuel or uranium to produce energy, unlike other major sources of energy, which means it will also take longer to deplete our uranium supply, for it is more abundant than fossil fuels. This also means that nuclear power can meet our energy needs when fossil fuels and other sources of energy become scarce or depleted. A great example of a country which runs mainly on nuclear power is France, in which 80% of their energy needs are fulfilled by nuclear power. However, there are some disadvantages according to opponents of nuclear power. One is a possible terrorist attack or nuclear reactor disaster, such as the disasters that happened at 3 Mile Island in Chernobyl, seen in this picture, in which 28 people died from radiation exposure. They also believe that the safety and security is a big concern. Although nuclear power is very reliable and affordable to produce, they believe that the safety and security cost in maintaining the plant altogether costs more money than the other sources of energy. Another problem, at least to them, is the waste produced by nuclear power. Although nuclear power does not produce much waste, the waste that it does produce has to be buried for many years for the radioactivity to die away. Probably one of their biggest concerns, though, is that nuclear power isn't renewable, since nuclear power takes uranium to produce energy. They believe that once we have used all of the Earth's uranium, there will be no more to use. However, I believe that nuclear power's positives outweigh the negatives, for it is one of the most affordable and one of the most environmentally efficient fuels out there. It is also one of the safest too, unlike what the skeptics and opponents say of nuclear power. It has far less fatalities and accidents compared to coal, hydropower, and natural gas. They are also wrong about nuclear power costing more, for it barely costs a little more than coal to produce, which is a small price to pay since nuclear power is saving our environment and saving people's lives. While they are right on one thing, that nuclear power's waste has to be buried for many, many years for the radioactivity to die away. However, nuclear power is probably more environmentally friendly than other fuels like fossil fuels, since it doesn't produce greenhouse gas emissions like they do. So I believe it is doing more good than harm. Skeptics also believe that nuclear power is unrenewable, since nuclear power is dependent on uranium. This is true, but nuclear power could also use other radioactive isotopes like uranium such as plutonium, to produce power. It also is more efficient for it produces lots more energy from little amounts of fuel. So chances are that nuclear power will be around longer than the leading producer for energy, fossil fuels, will. No new nuclear power plants have been made for quite some time now. So I encourage you to be more open to helping the environment by helping nuclear power plants become our main source of energy.